Wow, what a year that it has been. Whew. You guys like statistics? So I played 31 games in 2021, and out of those 31, only 6 were actually released in 2021. That's like 20%. In fact, the oldest of the games I played this year was released 24 years ago in 1997. The most common year of release for games that I played was 2005, with 4 titles being released that year. 13 of the games I played I already made videos on, but that doesn't mean that these other games won't get videos as well. 6 games I played mostly multiplayer with some buddies and was most likely inebriated while doing so. 19 games I've played previously, and obviously 12 I've played for the first time this year. At the beginning of the year, I had about 2,100 subscribers, and I was stoked. I had just passed 2K, and at the time of writing this, I'm just about to hit 22,000 subscribers. In 1 year, the channel has multiplied by 10. I just want to throw that in there with these stats because that's dope as hell, and I appreciate all of you for being here. With that being said, I do want to have some fun and throw all of these games into a tier list and see how they stack up. Is it a year of S's and A's, or have I had a trash year for gaming? Real quick before we start, I'm going to plug my GOG page. Your boy is officially a GOG affiliate, and I'm stoked because I love GOG. It's a website that actually cares about video games and retaining old classics, making them operable on modern systems, and ensuring that they get all their updates and such. And even allowing you to own all your games, because it's DRM free, so that's dope. And this isn't a video sponsored by them or anything, I'm just sharing a great website, and if you use my link to buy some of those games, I get a little kickback, so it's a win-win-win. A lot of the games on this list are on GOG, and some of them are exclusively on GOG, like the Suffering games. So if you're interested in any of them, just please go check them out. Also want to throw in a few more things real quick. I have made a Discord, a Patreon, and a Coffee page. Some people have reached out asking for a way to support me, so there we go. I won't be saying this in any other videos, so do not worry. The link will be in my YouTube page and in the description of all the videos, but I won't be actually saying it in any other videos. I appreciate all of you for being here, just watching and interacting with the videos. Please do not feel obligated to give me any money. Okay, enough shilling, let's dive in. Alright, so I don't really know the random order of games that has been selected here, but let's just go in the order that's on this tier list. First up, Civ 4. This is one of the games that I played strictly multiplayer with some friends. It's a lot of fun, and if you've never played a Civ game before, it's pretty much you settle a city, build a population and warriors, and then immediately invade the Dutch. It's a really good time. I'm just going to throw all these multiplayer games into their own little thing because it's kind of hard to compare them to games that I played single player and got a little more value from an actual story instead of just talking shit with friends on Discord. So Civ 4 goes into multiplayer. Left 4 Dead 2, another game that I played multiplayer only, and I think that I played it only one night and we went back to something else shortly after that. With that being said, it still holds up. It looks and it runs great. Turns out I have a bunch of goofy ass mods installed on the characters and the guns, like Isaac Clarke, Deadpool, and Master Chief. The smokers were the lickers from Resident Evil, the witch was a nurse from Silent Hill, and the tank was fucking Bane. A weird conglomeration of shit that I was into back in 2014, I guess. A fun game though. Manhunt 2. Ah yes, the sequel to one of my favorite Rockstar games. This game was a decent amount of fun, I would say. I had a little trouble getting it to run correctly on my computer, but once I did, it was a pretty good time. The mechanics of the game are a tad bit dated, and really it's just not as good as the first game, realistically. The graphics did not age as well. I did do a whole video on this game if you haven't seen it. Unfortunately, YouTube has demonetized it and age restricted it, but it is still up if you want to give it a watch. Luckily, I did make a good amount of ad revenue before they scalped it. But Manhunt 2 gets a C. Red Dead Revolver. I played this fairly recently in the year and released a video as well, and I do have to say this game does not hold up too sharp in 2021. Don't get me wrong, I loved this game in its day, and playing it this year, it still was a lot of fun and enjoyable, but some of the missions are straight ass to play through, like the bridge mission with Diego, just doesn't function well at all. So with nostalgia shades turned off, I gotta give this game a C as well. Resident Evil 2 Remake. This was actually the first game that I played in 2021. I played it on New Year's night as the ball dropped. Me and the wife were just chilling, and I had got this game for Christmas from my brother-in-law for the PS4 and decided to pop it in for New Year's. I was really impressed with it. I'm not a big Resident Evil fan. I played the classic Resident Evil 2 and all, but they aren't my favorite games, but this remake was really good. I got through Leon's campaign in one sitting. However, I haven't played it since, and I haven't picked up either RE3 Remake or RE Village, so I guess it wasn't too good to sell me on more Resident Evil stuff. But I'll still give it a solid B. Silent Hill 2, a beautiful game. If you've seen my video on the game, you know it's my favorite horror game of all time. And this year, I played it for the first time on PC with the Enhanced Edition mod, and it was fantastic. The gameplay is very dated, Combat sucks if we're being honest, but everything else in this game is terrific, and if this game was released this year, I'd say that it holds up tremendously. I gotta give it an A. 25 to Life. Shitty game. Just a shitty game. Terrible at everything. The game was fun back in the day, especially the multiplayer, but it does not hold up even a little bit. I actually started playing this game early on in the year, like March or something, and couldn't finish it. It wasn't until October when I finished it and made a video on it. This is an F, all the way. Death Trash. This is an early access game that plays a lot like the classic Fallout games, and I loved it. It's so well put together, from the gameplay and combat to the visuals to the witty dialogue. It was all fantastic, and I cannot wait for the full release that is coming hopefully soon. And this is one of the 6 games that was released in 2021, and it's my second favorite out of all of them, so this gets an S for sure. No complaints from me. The Suffering, Ties That Bind. So I played the first Suffering and then Ties That Bind back to back. Ties That Bind was really just more of what made the first game so great, with updated graphics and visuals. There was one really annoying part of the game that required a number pad to progress, but my keyboard didn't have one, so I had to go grab another keyboard just to press one button. Slightly annoying that I couldn't just like rebind the action keys or anything like that, but it is what it is. There is something about Ties That Bind that makes it seem lesser in my eyes than the first. Maybe it's the lack of horror or horror atmosphere that was really just super thick in the first game, but it just doesn't compare in my opinion, and I prefer it less. I played both these games for the first time in 2021, so this is a pretty objective review with no nostalgia, and I'm gonna give Ties That Bind a B. I'm just gonna skip ahead and jump to the first Suffering game from here and throw that up here in A. This game actually blew me away with how well it played and how well it was written and just how great of a game it actually was. People have been recommending this game to me since I released the Manhunt videos, and I can see why. They are similar in atmosphere and tone and really play just as good, if not better, even today. Fallout. I've played Fallout before. I think around 2015 or so I tried to play it for the first time, and I did not make it far. 2021 was the first year that I sat down and played the game fully, with lots of help from walkthroughs and such, and it's now one of my favorite games. I love the bleak overtones of the game and the overly depressing narrative that I think every other game in the franchise lost connection to. It's truly a great experience, and a game that I plan on playing multiple times over in these upcoming years. A. Fallout 2. Personally, this was worse than the first game. Not a bad game at all, but a severe disconnect from what I enjoyed, at least from the first game. I understand they improved on plenty of things and added much needed creature comforts to the game, but the over-reliance on jokes and pop culture references completely changed the game in my eyes. Especially when the game had so many serious topics in it, like slavery, drug use, and prostitution, and it created moral dilemmas and conversations around those things, while constantly bombarding you with pop culture references and chess matches with scorpions. I gotta give Fallout 2 a B. Bully. I'm actually playing this game right now for an upcoming video in early next year. I'm on chapter 3 or so, but this isn't my first time playing the game, obviously. This was one of my favorites growing up. It's interesting to see how dated it all looks and functions today. It definitely suffers from some problems here and there, but I'm having a blast. Just riding around on my skateboard, tossing itching powder on people, and since I'm still playing this is preliminary, but we'll give it a solid B. Alan Wake, American Nightmare. I played this in October. I was on a spooky game kick, and admittedly, I had never played this game. Alan Wake is one of my favorite games of all time, and this expansion has just constantly slipped my interest, and I never played it. After playing it though, it was just meh. It lacked any charm that Alan Wake had, and played like an arcadey DLC with the gun loot boxes unlocked by manuscript collections. It just didn't jive with me. The story was okay, Mr. Scratch was fantastic, but I don't know, it was just a very game. It focused on the combat too much in a game where combat wasn't that great to begin with. I gotta give it a C. Call of Duty Warzone, multiplayer game. I fucking suck. I just like to drop in with the boys occasionally. Okay, this game I played multiplayer, but I actually had a few single player games in there too. This is just a very clean and simple civilization game that they dumbed down a lot of shit for my monkey brain, and I really enjoyed it. Still gonna throw this here with the multiplayer category though, because I didn't really play it all too much. Dead Space 2, incredible. Holds up like a game just released this year and is perhaps the best example of a sequel that there ever was to a game that most people consider a horror masterpiece. This wasn't the first time that I played this game, but even if it was, the game was beautiful. No complaints, it's gotta be an S. Inscription. My personal game of the year. This game blew me away, and I'm not even like a deck builder game fan, but once that first act ends, I was fully invested in everything this game had to offer. I can't even say anything about this game without spoiling it, so just play it. It's an S all the way for me. Dead Space 3. I love this game. I understand it got a lot of flack on its release for being all action and no horror, which I agree with to a point, and the weapon modification and resource farming and such was really lame, but the writing in this game was still fantastic. The Lovecraftian cosmic horror vibe, especially within the DLC, was just right in my wheelhouse, and I love it. It doesn't stack up to Dead Space 2 in my opinion, but it's a damn solid game. I'm throwing it a B. League of Legends. Of course, multiplayer. I did play solo queue every now and again, but playing with friends is what makes this game. I actually don't hate League like seemingly every other fan of the game. I enjoy it a lot. The matches seem fair and are intense and gratifying and disappointing, all like good multiplayer games should be. I've played this game for damn near a decade, and I still come back to it every now and again. I am trash though. I have never climbed out of gold, but I still have a lot of fun. And maybe it's only fun because I don't try to grind elo or something. I don't know. Fallout 3. This is my favorite game of all time. There, I said it. No mutants allowed. Members, feel free to dislike and move on. This is just everything that I want from a post-apocalypse experience, and it's just perfect to me. I have a video in the works explaining my position further, but Fallout 3 is an S. Fallout New Vegas. I'm gonna further piss off some people here, but this is an A. I have a video on this game as well in the works to explain it further, but what it breaks down to is atmosphere and exploration, and the Mojave just doesn't do it as well as the Capital Wasteland. This game is a solid A though, probably my favorite RPG game. It does RPG and story way better than Fallout 3, I'll admit, but these are things that aren't super important to me in a lot of cases, and I know they are for most, which is why generally New Vegas is higher than 3, but I'm a little wonky. Chernobylite. Probably my biggest disappointment from 2021. I had high hopes for this game due to my love of Stalker, but this just wasn't what I expected nor wanted. I was grateful that the developer sent me the game for free to check out, so I wasn't out any money because I probably played this game for like 4 hours and never picked it up again. C. Gun. Recommended well over 100 times by you guys after my Red Dead Revolver video, and I thank you for that. This game was fantastic. First time playthrough in 2021, and I'm a little bummed that I didn't get to experience this in its heyday. I got a video coming out on it very soon, but this is an easy A. Valheim. I take it back. This was the biggest disappointment for me in 2021. I actually disliked this game. It ran like shit on my PC, even though the graphics weren't really that great, and it just wasn't that fun. I liked the theme around the game, and I really wanted to get into it, but I just could not for the life of me. I gotta give it an F. Just a waste of money in my backlog at this point. Skyrim Anniversary Edition. I got this game for free from Bethesda, and that's the only reason that I played it. And even then, I played it for a few hours. It's just Skyrim. More Skyrim. It has Creation Club shit and fishing, but it's still 99.9% stealth archer gameplay. Don't get me wrong, I love Skyrim, but fuck, it's starting to feel really dated at this point. If people haven't played it yet, they aren't going to. Just stop reselling it. C. Stardew Valley, multiplayer game, but also a single player experience that I come back to year after year. It's just a cozy game that makes me feel comfortable when I'm particularly stressed out. I like to just hang out there and fish and plant potatoes and shit. It is supposed to go in this multiplayer category, but fuck it, Stardew Valley gets an S. Manhunt, wow. What a jump from Stardew Valley. Manhunt holds up today probably better than Manhunt 2 does. It's in that sweet spot of timeless development where graphics didn't try too hard and they aren't really that abrasive to look at. Also, the gameplay is simple and effective. It's an easy A for me, and it's still one of my favorite Rockstar games ever made. Pokemon Shining Pearl. Pokemon Blue is still, to this day, probably my most played game of all time. I had my Game Boy in my hands all the fucking time as a kid. Pokemon was my shit growing up, like most kids, but I stopped playing the games after like Sapphire because I never got a Nintendo DS. I stopped at the Game Boy Advance. So I never played the original Pearl game, and I thought, fuck it, let's get the remaster for the Switch, and it's dope. I like it a lot, and I'm still playing it. I have one more gym and then the Elite Four to go. I don't really do shiny hunting or anything like that. I just like catching Pokemon and battling and shit. And for those things, it's exactly what I wanted. I can't see why it's not a solid A. The Punisher. This game was my jam on the PS2, and the video that I made on it blew the fuck up, so you guys clearly seem to love it as well. It's such a good game. It's got good third-person shooting, the story was actually really good, like impressively good, and even this year, on the PC version, the game runs good as hell. A. And last up, Silent Hill 3. I played this shortly after beating Silent Hill 2. This game I feel like is just stuck in the shadow of its older sibling. It does everything right. The stale-ass combat is even better in this game, but it's just not as good as Silent Hill 2. It falls just short. However, it is still an A game, and eventually there will be a video on it. Well, that's it. 31 old ass games that I just so happened to play this year. Overall, I'd say that it was a good year for me. Lots of gems and revisits to classics that may or may not have held up many years later, but even for the ones that didn't play so great, they were a fun time to relive some nostalgia. I'm a 90s kid, so really nostalgia kind of fuels my life at this point. This year, I made it a point to write down all the games that I played with the intent on making this video at the end of the year, and as I got closer, I kept wanting to back out because it sounds like a silly idea and no one actually cares what I think, but who knows, maybe you guys will like it and it'll become a yearly thing from now on. If not, I guess I'll just go fuck myself. Either way, thanks for the amazing year. This channel became massive in comparison to what it was in 2020, and I still can't wrap my head around the fact that I have 20,000 subscribers. So thank all of you who decided to watch, like, comment, subscribe, share with your grandma. I appreciate you, and I hope that I can continue to make content that you enjoy. Plan on seeing you next year. I'll go ahead and spoil the next few videos for all those who stuck around this late into the video. We got Gun, we got Bully, we got Fallout 3, and then we got a video on the Red Dead Revolver Bounties and Outlaws in the works. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next year. Peace.